Hello and welcome to Season 2 of the Soccer Coaching Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Scott.
And I'm the other host, Mark.
In each episode, Mark and I will discuss the key topics that impact on football coaching in the foundation and youth development phases. We will share our thoughts, ideas and experiences, and whenever possible include guests so we can get their insights and opinions too. Thanks for listening and we hope you enjoy this episode. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 45 of the Soccer Coaching Podcast. I'm delighted to say after 44 previous episodes where we've had some cracking guests on, pretty much all from like an educational coaching background, we've covered some key topics we feel. We finally got someone on that's actually walked the walk and talked the talk and actually played at the highest level really. So Luke, welcome to the episode.
Thanks for having me, Scott. Looking forward to it.
Oh no, thanks for agreeing to do it. For our podcast, what we try and do is we're very much about the coaching side and youth football. So just trying to talk about some of the topics and challenges are out there in the world of kids soccer, just to hopefully give coaches an idea about how they might want to approach things and give their players the best possible experience. You know, that's what we're trying to do here. So it's great maybe to have maybe unpick a bit about your journey and what you went through and also what you're doing now and maybe how things may or may not have changed and kind of just get your thoughts and feedback really about the whole kind of landscape around youth football, if that's all right.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Fire away.
Good man. Well, let's start first then. Lockdown. How's it been for you? How are you getting on? I've seen on a few things out there. You're keeping busy, but how have you found it all and what you've been up to?
Yeah, it's been interesting. I live in a real small village just the south of Cambridge where not a lot happens and you don't really realise the whole enormity of the situation. Like we've not been affected, touch wood, too much around here by the pandemic. It's just obviously you see it all on the news, this awful stuff that's going on. But in my case, it's been an opportunity to reflect, spend time with my children. I've got one who's 17 and one who's 14. So usually I wouldn't get to spend that much time with them. So, and obviously
that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Well, that's what I'm coming to. It started off really good, but I think we're starting to really grate on each other now and looking forward to getting back to normal. But it's been a positive time despite all, obviously, the tragedy that's been going on all over the world.
You've got to make the best of the situation, haven't you? And the opportunity to reflect sometimes and take some time out is not a bad thing, is it? Especially with the family.
Yeah, definitely. I think reflection's a great thing. We can all get wrapped up in our own affairs a lot of the time, can't we? And this has given us a fantastic opportunity just to take a step back and realise what is truly important to you, and that's your family, your friends, and spending time with each other. So in that respect, it has been a real good few months, but time to get back to work hopefully soon.
Hopefully soon. And where you are then out in Cambridge, it's quite rural, you can get out and about a bit and there's lots of places to go for walks and get some fresh air and stuff. Is it like that out there?
Yeah, it's a beautiful place to live really in terms of the countryside, walks, tracks, that sort of thing. So it is, I can't ask for much more to get locked down in a small village like this. It's where it's been easy for us really. In like town cities it must be incredibly hard, but we are lucky where we are out here in the middle of nowhere really.
It makes a difference, doesn't it? Yeah. I've got two young boys, Luke. I mean, I've got an 11 and a 7-year-old, and to be fair, they've been fine, you know, and the older one's back at school now because he's year 6. But teenagers I can't imagine being 16, 17 years old during this time and behaving myself enough to follow the social distancing rules. Have your boys been all right? Have they behaved themselves enough?
They've been all right. They've been good, to be fair. My eldest, he's a scholar at Cambridge United, so he's been keeping going with his training. So we've been doing a bit together in the gym. So I think he's stronger than me now, which don't really do much. And the youngest, he's been doing his schoolwork. He tells me he's doing it. He's certainly being an absolute expert at FIFA and Call of Duty when he goes back. I'm pretty sure of that.
Brilliant. Do you know what? That's not time badly spent either, to be fair. You know, you've got to have a bit of a time just to get to yourself and do your own thing, right? Yeah, my boys are all on Fortnite. They're Fortnite wizards. We have a deal, like whatever you spend on Fortnite, you've got to spend twice as much time doing exercise. So it seems to work out all right.
Yeah, that's a good way of doing it.
Well, look, if you don't mind, just a bit of reflection on your own football story, if you don't mind, Luke. Just think back, you know, first of all, kind of, obviously you got to the top level, but how did it all start for you?
I think it would have been just playing in the garden. I grew up in this area where I live now, a real small village where we had sort of a small house, but a lot of land at the end of it. So it's like a council house with a big garden. So I was fortunate enough that I spent most of my time out in the garden kicking a ball about. Probably my earliest memories would have been a 5-6-year-old just playing in the back garden with my dad and my brother. And then I think the big thing for me that really switched to where I thought this is something that I want to do is going to my first live football game. My dad took me to watch Cambridge United, and it just blew my mind, really, being in a football stadium, being so close to the players, experiencing that atmosphere. And I remember coming out of there thinking that's like heaven. I've never felt like that before. So I think that was the real first one where I thought that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, you were hooked straight away. So you played a lot, obviously. Then you got a brother, older or younger? Just out of interest.
I've got an older brother.
Oh, so you were the one getting battered by the ball, stuck in goal, and getting shots blasted at you and stuff.
Yeah, I've got a memory. I think it was the 1987 FA Cup final where Tottenham played Coventry, and we were playing outside in the garden. And I think my dad and my brother were doing heady ups together. And then when I kept doing it, it kept messing up. And I remember running back inside, crying to my mum, saying that they were being horrible to me, saying I weren't as good as them.
Funny, these things can often toughen you up, can't it? To work out that it does you a favour in the end, but doesn't feel like it at the time. You obviously loved the game and played from a young age. What time or what stage did it kind of go from being recreational, just like maybe with a grassroots club, I assume, at some point, and then get picked up into that academy system?
Yeah, so I started playing organised football when I was a kid. It started at under-9. So I went and played for a team called Melbourne Tigers as an under-9. And back then we were straight on as 8-9-year-olds onto an 11-a-side pitch with full-size goals. And at the time, the main attribute I was an incredibly fast young boy. So I used to play as a striker. My teammates used to kick the ball as hard as they could over the top of the defence. I'd chase after it and sort of tap it past the goalkeeper and score. And I had an incredible amount of success as a young player by scoring loads of goals. And I think that's another reason that really gave me the confidence and sort of that hunger to want to improve because of that early success I had. And then I would have started playing for the representative teams. There was a team called East Anglia Boys that took all the gifted players from around the area, and we used to go on tours. We used to go to Denmark, Holland, even out to America. So I had incredible experiences as a young boy of playing in different countries, playing in different tournaments. And then my first involvement with a professional club where I signed for the School of Excellence would have been at Arsenal as an under-13 player. I went and played there where I went to Highbury on an evening during the week where there was an indoor area at the back of one of the stands. And then I played for Arsenal on a Sunday at London Colney against another professional team. So that was my first real involvement with a professional football club. And I was such a quiet, shy, timid little lad who didn't like going to play with other people. I didn't really like it that much. I used to make up excuses sometimes that I couldn't go because it was such a long way to get to Highbury. So it weren't something a fantastic football club, don't get me wrong, but something that I weren't really comfortable with at the time.
Was that maybe because you weren't prepared for it psychologically? It just was a too big a mental hurdle more than anything else, not a physical thing or a technical thing, just the psychological pressure of going to somewhere far away and being with different people and stuff?
Yeah, definitely. When I was there, I was as good as the other players, one of the better players, but it was just a case, I was just so much more comfortable playing with my mates. That's all I'd done till then. I enjoyed that so much more, and it just seemed like a bit of a hassle going all the way to Highbury to train. I was one of them that I was like a playground player. All I wanted was to play games. I weren't interested in training really. I just wanted to play in the matches and get the ball and sort of have my own ball to myself and just keep it to myself for as long as possible.
Yeah. So were you doing a lot of travelling then, Luke? I mean, was this like in the family car? Because obviously Cambridge to London's not round the corner. It's not a million miles away, but it's still a fair old distance. Would you be commuting down to London then to go to London Colney to train, or you weren't living down in London? No. So I lived in a village in the south of Cambridge. So sometimes I'd get the train to Finsbury Park, and then it was like a small walk to Highbury, or my mum would take me, or my dad would take me. And they used to get expenses. So I think I used to sign a little form, and every time I went there, I got £6 to pay for the petrol. So I used to tell all my mates at school that I was getting paid big money to play for Arsenal at the time. And what happened from there then? So you were at Arsenal at School of Excellence. What happened from there? Did you get seen by someone else and move on?
Yeah, so then sort of at that similar sort of time that I was playing for Arsenal, on a Saturday I'd play for my school's team. So it'd be Cambridge schools, where the most gifted boys from all the schools around Cambridge had come together to form Cambridge schools, where you'd play the same different areas. And that was quite a big competitive football back then. And I was scoring a lot of goals, and that was off the back of that where I got a scout come and watch me play from Manchester United, and I was invited up to Manchester United to trial and go up there for a week and spend a week at the club training and sort of playing games there.
That must have been quite nerve-wracking, or were you the kind of kid that actually you were comfortable in your own ability, just playing, and you were okay with that, or was it a bit of a nerve-wracking experience?
Yeah, it's definitely nerve-wracking. I remember I was put on the train to go up there, and I was going to be collected at Manchester Piccadilly by the minibus or whatever. And it was, although at Arsenal I was always sort of not that keen on going, although I had them same nerves and trepidations about going up to Manchester, because it was Manchester United, who were obviously the team at the moment at the time. Yeah. It was a huge club. It was a mixture of nerves and excitement. And when I got up there, it was incredible, really, in terms of the environment, how you were made to feel. It just seemed incredible. I've never experienced anything like it in my life. The second I got off the train and onto the minibus, I felt so welcome, and it just felt incredible to be part of that club. It was the most amazing experience. And even though I was a quiet, shy lad, I was made to feel at home straight away and sort of comfortable there. And from the second that I got there, I knew that this was the place I wanted to be because of how it made you feel.
And how did the trial go then?
Yeah, so there was probably we stayed in a hotel in Manchester called the Castlefield Hotel. There was probably about 14, 15 other schoolboys like me who was brought out from all over the country, all over Britain, really. They were from Wales, Ireland, Scotland, and we'd go and train with each other, with the local boys. And it was incredible, really. I done well. I played a game on the last day against Nottingham Forest, then got taken back to the train station, hours and hours to get home to the little village station where I live. My mum picked me up from the station and told me that Sir Alex Ferguson had phoned her up and asked if I could sign for the club as a schoolboy. Oh. So to hear, I thought she was mucking about to start with, but to hear that, obviously, I loved the week so much that there was no one else I was going to sign for once she told me that information.
And did you know you had done well then? I mean, it must be quite hard. Or did you have just a cracking week where you thought, you know what, I think I've got this. I think I'm going to be all right?
I don't know. I don't really remember sort of feeling like, I just remember having such a fantastic time. And I think usually when you come home and you've enjoyed something, you tend to have done well at something when you've had that much fun doing it. So I don't really remember thinking that, but obviously I'd done well enough to be offered a schoolboy form at the club, which obviously was incredible. From that moment on, because I lived so far away, it'd just be a case of I'd travel up there on a weekend and be on the bench for the A or the B team on the Saturday, then play for my age group on the Sunday, then go home, and then every school holiday I'd go and spend time up there. But I was always looking forward to it, where maybe in the past at Arsenal I didn't have that same feeling about it.
How old were you then, Luke?
So I would have been 14, just turning 15 at the time.
So back then, the expectation wasn't to be up there all week then? You would literally go out for the weekends and come back and then just score holidays?
Yeah, it was good, completely different back then in terms of how it was. Like the schools football was probably considered the more important football at the time. There weren't the same training that the academy lads getting today, but it was more games, which, like I say, that was what I loved doing. So I was playing Saturday, Sunday every week. So it was a great time for me.
And did you play in positions? Would they play you as a front player, or because obviously you're known as a midfield player? But if you were up front banging in goals back then, did that something that changed as your career went on, or were you just playing anywhere when you were 14, 15?
I don't think there was as much of it back then in terms of the youth football where you'd sort of switch positions a lot. I'd be a striker. I'd end up moving to a wide man when I moved up there full time as a scholar, because there was 4 strikers and it just seemed to suit my game better. But as a schoolboy coming through, when I played, I'd be the centre forward all the time, really.
So obviously you kicked on a treat, and you actually ended up playing in the first team. How do you go from 14 to suddenly finding yourself in playing at the highest level?
Yeah, so obviously moved up the day after I finished school. I moved up as a 16-year-old to go and live in Manchester full time in digs, and then started my journey as a full-time footballer. Really worked incredibly hard. Them 2 years, done well as a scholar, really, to forge a reputation and sign a professional contract. Then after signing my contract, I went home after my second year for the summer, and probably then thought I was Billy big time and I'd made it already because I'd signed a professional contract, and probably didn't look after myself or do the work that is expected of you away from the club, and come back not in the best shape I could have been in and not in the best form I could have been in, and was probably a long, long way from the first team squad when I was probably expected to be closer at that time. Yeah. So it was thought that I'd be sent on loan to Antwerp out in Belgium to sort of experience more first team football and see how I came on from there, really, see how I developed. So I went out to Belgium and had an absolutely amazing time, both in terms of on a football pitch and a lot of like a life.
Did you have someone with you to go out with, Luke? Was that something on your own, or did they put a couple of you out there just to have some company?
So that went out there. There was two already out there, two lads that were my mates from the youth team anyway. So we were sort of.
That helps.
Yeah, I was living in a hotel, so both on and off the pitch, it was a steep learning curve of, obviously, it's a lively city where you couldn't be going out all the time and sort of doing the wrong things, and you had a responsibility to perform on the weekend. First team football, real passionate fans where there'd be the smoke bomb, typical European sort of atmosphere, and I just absolutely loved it. That first experience of being a regular first team player was incredible, and I think from that it just sort of gives you the hunger to want more and more. So I was called back from Antwerp, and I was absolutely gutted to be called back because I assumed I'd just be going back into to the reserves at Manchester United, and I was happy in Belgium. I was scoring goals, playing well. So when I went back, I was quite surprised to be thrown straight into the first team squad, and from there really I stayed in the squad, and sort of that season, the 2001 season, played a fair few games, coming off the bench quite a lot and being involved in the squad week in, week out, which of course was an incredible experience, quite daunting as well, from going to playing in the Belgian league to be training day in, day out with some of the best players in the world. It was always a battle to just sort of fight and strive and stay with the group, and sort of every day was intense and hard, but it was a real good learning opportunity to see what it takes to be a top footballer.
It must be quite a fine margins, I imagine, Luke, between like that situation you've explained there, where you've kind of gone out on loan, not so fit, get yourself fit, and then do well and get back again. But it must be just small margins between the players that actually do that and take those moments and embrace those opportunities and kick on, and those that don't. I mean, there must be loads that don't do that and kind of go the other way. Did you feel like you were kind of always on that cusp where it could go either way?
Yeah, I never thought I was going to be a regular. Like Giggs and Beckham were playing in my position. I never thought I'm going to take their places. At the same time, like these players stay at that level for years on end for a reason, because they're so dedicated to their craft and they do everything possible to stay there, all them little bits and pieces. I think I was probably a little naive to that, in the fact that I just love playing football. So all I'd want to do is go and train, and that'd be it for me. I didn't fancy going in the gym and lifting all them heavy weights like the rest of them doing all them prehab. So probably in that respect, I was dedicated to my football because I loved it, but probably didn't do enough of the other stuff to be around it for a long period of time, really.
How did it differ compared to playing top flight football in Belgium to playing in the Premier League? I mean, is it poles apart, or were you able to adapt quite quickly from that to playing at Old Trafford and for Man United?
I think the adaptation was quite quickly to do that. I think where it's different is at Manchester United, every single day is so hard in terms of the training is so intense, so competitive, where at Antwerp you could afford to be off it a couple of days and you get away with it because you're going to be in the team anyway. At Man United, it weren't like that at all. It was every day the training was probably harder than the games on the Saturday because it was that intense and it was the best players in the league playing together. And honestly, when it comes to Saturday, the games seemed to be quite straightforward because the week was so hard leading up to it.
That's how it should be, right? You do the preparation and the game shouldn't be such a challenge in theory. I've got to ask then, obviously, managed by Fergie, how was that experience? Something special, I'd imagine.
Oh, incredible. Like the man's a genius, one of the most incredible people I've ever met. Like I alluded to earlier, he phoned my mum as a 14-year-old boy to ask if I'd sign, but it wouldn't just be me he'd do that for, he'd do it for everyone. The way that he treated people, the relationships he built with everyone at the football club, whether that be Roy Keane, Ryan Giggs, or the kit man or the dinner ladies, he'd have every single person at that football club wanting to do well and wanting to do extra for him, because there was no better feeling than the great man giving you praise. People ask about the hairdryer treatment, and obviously when he has a go at you, it's scary, but the worse than that, it's the feeling of letting him down. The one person you didn't want to let down at the club was the manager, because he led it from the top to the very bottom. He had a hand in everything. I was at the club as a first team player, and there'd be under 10, under 11 academy players in the canteen at Carrington, and the gaffer would know every single one of their names. He'd know where every single one of them was from. That small little details that mean so much to people, he'd go to that detail because he knew that he could develop people to do well for him. And that was the genius of the man, and why the club had such incredible success in his tenure in charge.
It's quite a powerful motivator, isn't it? You know, kind of that almost subconscious pressure on yourself to want to do well for the right reasons, not for financial ones or anything else, but actually that more intrinsic stuff that actually then has a bigger impact probably in how you train and how you play.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think it's that intrinsic motivation that keeps you doing something. I think there's only that intrinsic stuff can last for so long, but it can't really, to enjoy, you've got to enjoy and love something to be successful at it, I think. And I think that's what he bred throughout the whole football club, and a massive love for the club.
And I know you said that, you know, mate, you wanted just to play really, and more than probably do the training stuff, although I'm sure you did work hard at training too. How was the training at United? I mean, was it heavily structured? You know, what was the experience like when you're doing the training for you personally? I mean, like, did you still enjoy the training process, or was it more of a battle to kind of get embraced in that because you wanted to go and play the games?
No, that was what training was at Manchester United for the majority of the time. It was possession and games. We had the best players, so if we trained hard doing that sort of thing, we'd win. It weren't as much as a tactical battle back then. Most teams in the Premier League would play 4-4-2. It'd be quite similar games, and it was the team with the best players would win the game, and United more or less always had the best players, so they'd tend to win the games. I think as that Steve McLaren was in charge, and the sessions were, everyone used to buzz off it every day because you do possession, fun games, little matches, that sort of thing, and that was training. I think as time moved on a little bit and United were getting further and further away in terms of winning another Champions League after the success against Bayern Munich in Barcelona, teams were changing, particularly in Europe, where the midfield area would be flooded a little bit more, and United couldn't control the tempo of a game anymore because they'd be overrun in midfield by extra bodies in there. And I think that's when Sir Alex noticed that things probably had to change a little bit, and he brought Carlos Queiroz in, and he was more of a tactical sort of coach, where more of emphasis would be on the team shape and how we're going to play, which didn't have necessarily be done before, because everyone knew it'd be a 4-4-2 because that's the way that the club played and the way the majority of teams in the country and Europe played.
It does feel like with Fergie, amongst many things, one of his geniuses was actually who he put in as his number two. And he seemed to pick the right number twos for the right period of time. So having the right type of number two that would be able to support the youth players that he had, or the way the football was developing and changing. So he had the right second man almost alongside him to adapt how United would change over those times. Because to reinvent a team, I don't know, 4 or 5 times over his career, at least I would say, is quite an impressive thing to be able to do. And I think it seems from the outside looking in, a lot of that was who he had second in charge there supporting that process.
Yeah, I think he always sort of moved with the times in terms of looking to get real forward-thinking coaches into the club. Well, I think he absolutely, I think Carlos Queiroz was he loved Carlos Queiroz. But like me as a player, I weren't as keen on Carlos Queiroz because it was completely different to anything I've experienced before, where he'd call people by their second names. It was a lot more structured. Didn't seem as fun, but he was an incredible forward-thinking coach who I think brought the club on in many ways, him being there.
And am I allowed to ask, and maybe, I don't know if you can answer this or not, maybe it's not appropriate for the show, but was there an initiation at United? Did you have to do anything before you played for them?
There, as a scholar, when you go in as a scholar, there was an initiation period called Fun and Games,
right,
where you'd be sort of asked to do different things in front of, like, everyone would be there apart from the staff, the first team players. I won't go into too much detail, but it was a real, obviously for a 16-year-old lads that were there, it was a real nerve-wracking experience. I was dreading it that much before I moved up there. I was even thinking of not signing for the club because I didn't want to do it. But it's the sort of thing that used to happen in many clubs. To be honest with you, after you've done it, you do feel such a relief and you do feel part of it. But these sort of things don't go on anymore, which is probably for the best. Yeah. But it was one of them things that did sort of initiate you into the family of Manchester United, really.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, last question about United, if that's okay, and that part of your journey. Really, you scored a couple of goals for United. I mean, that must have been an amazing feeling.
Oh, yeah, incredible to score for the club. I remember, obviously, my first goal against Bradford, and David Beckham sent me through, but it's probably the other one against Leeds that I'll be people would remember me for because it was such a big game. And I remember Ollie having a shot at Nigel Martin, a real weak shot, really, and I just followed it in, not really thinking Nigel Martin would drop it because he was a fantastic keeper, but somehow he's spilt it right at my feet. I'm about 3 yards away from goal. Not even I could have missed that one. And I just remember my eyes just lighting up, and that's such a euphoric feeling of scoring in such a big game for the club. That was definitely my best moment at Manchester United, that's for sure.
Yeah, wow, what a feeling. Brilliant, Luke. Thanks for that, man. It's nice to look back and reflect back, and well done for I guess for being one of those players that just loved the game, wanted to play, and then proving actually you can get to the highest level with a good attitude and just a smile on your face and work hard. So well done. It's a great story. I think for us, if you don't mind, we're keen to look at like the coaching side of things, particularly on youth coaching, and you're obviously still heavily involved in that now with what you're doing with the Fun Football Factory stuff and things, which we'll talk about in a bit, if that's okay. But I just as a general reflection, from looking back at your time going through your football journey when you were younger and particularly your school days, how do you see it different now? You've got two young boys as well. How has it changed, do you think? And I guess what kind of worked back then and what works now? Yeah,
I think it's definitely improved in terms of the whole process now is developing people. It's not all about football. Back in my day, it was just sort of that command style where you've got to do this and you'd sort of accept that and go and do that. I think now it is a lot more sort of different styles of coaching. The children are given a lot more ownership. There's more question and answer and that sort of thing, which obviously develops the children in a more rounded way. It's not just that sort of army style of go and do this, and if you don't do it, you're going to get shouted at, which obviously that was the way it was done back then. And there were some amazing coaches back then, both in full-time adult football and youth coaches as well. But I think now it is a lot more child-friendly, child-centred, which is obviously a good thing.
You're coaching with the Fun Football Factory, you're part of that, and you get involved in those sessions. How much of that is tailored towards the technical side of football, and how much of it is towards like the life skill stuff? Are you blending it together there? Is that the idea?
Yeah, it's more heavily stacked towards the life skills sort of area. It's not a football fun factory is, as the name suggests, it's about kids having fun playing football. It's not us developing kids to go and play in a professional academy. It's purely developing a love for the game of something that children want to go and do for years and years afterwards and carry on playing as adults because they enjoy doing it, not because they're going to become a professional footballer, because they're doing it and using that football as a vehicle to develop real strong, positive life skills like teamwork, sportsmanship, communication. So it's more heavily back towards that. Obviously, if you're playing football, you're going to improve doing it. And we've put on sessions that's going to develop, but the be all and end all is fun.
To be fair, even with the players that maybe aren't looking at becoming elite, if you want, or playing professionally and making it a career for them, to love the game, but also use it as a vehicle to develop those other life skill stuff, whether that's communication, leadership skills, teamwork, or empathy, all those important things. It's such a powerful vehicle, football, for doing that, isn't it? It's such a great way in which you can give people the confidence to work on those other attributes, that whatever they do in life, it will help them probably be more successful if they can, get more practice and experience around those things. Do you find players embrace that and get that, and do you see the benefits out of them going through that process?
Yeah, I think we definitely see huge benefits from doing it that way. Every session we do, at the end of each session, and all the children know, we hand out a blue card, and the blue card's handed out at the end of the session for the child that shows the most outstanding human qualities, rather than the child that scores the most goals or shows the most skills in the game. So I think that sort of gets our engagement straight away, where they're trying to work on these skills, where it is obviously a bit of a trick because they want to win the blue card, but at the same time they're all developing by practicing these skills that are going to allow them to be awarded the blue card by showing outstanding human qualities. And
if you shine a light on the process rather than the outcomes, it's much, well, it's more fair in the sense that any player can win that, right? If you're going to just be the hardest working player or apply yourself to the challenge, you've got a chance to win. It doesn't matter how good you are at doing it. But it also, you see the outcomes come, don't they, anyway, with time? So you get the development anyway, but you're not shining the light on that from the outset. And I think when you said at the beginning about confidence being so important, once you focus more on the psychological and social side of things, that can really help build that confidence rather than focus on the technique and the physical side from day one. Because if a player hasn't got that technical ability straight away, or isn't physically as big as another player, to get that confidence to be successful is going to be much harder for them. Where actually, if you shine a light on the other stuff first, then they've got more of a chance of kicking on, and you see maybe they're reaching their full potential.
Yeah, and it is, all that matters is a process. There's no real destination, is there? Because we never get there. It's all a process. Life is a process we keep going through. So we have to treat every child as an individual. Every child has got their own journey that they're going on. So it's our responsibility as a coach and our skill as a coach to manage that difference and make sure, whether it's an unbelievable player who's playing in a session or someone who's just doing their first football session, they get as much out of it as each other. And that's our skill as a coach, to be able to recognise these things and deal with that and make sure that everyone's having a fantastic time and everyone's leaving football with a big smile on their face and they can't wait to come back to the next session.
Well, that's how I feel, Luke, isn't it? I mean, you get more out of the players. Well, if they're enjoying it and they're having fun, they apply themselves a bit harder and they train a bit harder, and you get other things anyway. You said for yourself, like, the more you enjoy it, the kind of the better you are at performing, aren't you? And if it's not fun, then you don't give it your best anyway, do you? So it doesn't work if it's not fun, really, especially for kids.
Yeah, I think for anyone, I think whatever you're doing, I think if you're doing a job and you enjoy doing it, you're going to do it better. If you're just going to work to get paid, you probably won't enjoy doing it that much. I think it's so important to try. I know everyone's not lucky enough to do it, but to find something you love. What do they say? If you love doing what you're doing, you'll never work a day in your life, really. So it's like, to find that is a gift. And I think it's so prevalent in everything, particularly young people. If they enjoy doing something, whether it's maths, English, playing football, they're going to do it better if what they perceive it as fun, what they're doing.
Do you have much involvement or any observations over the current grassroots football space in England? Do you see much of it? You around it much?
Yeah, quite a lot, really. We have a lot of the kids that come to our sessions are in grassroots teams as well. We spend a lot of time with grassroots coaches. We put events on for grassroots coaches. So there's loads of fantastic work going on, and the people that give up so much in terms of that we're doing it the same way. Everyone's doing it for the right reasons, really. That goes throughout all football, from grassroots, professional. I think if everyone's doing it in a positive manner, then the kids are going to have a great time. I think there is incredible good practice going on, but at the same time, there's some practice that probably needs to be improved that I think would be improved if the education was there, really.
It's not from a lack of wanting to do well, I think, sometimes from the grassroots perspective. I think sometimes we just don't always know how to do the right thing the right way. And you go with the best intentions, and a lot of the grassroots coaches are just parents that have stepped up as volunteers. And part of doing the podcast was you almost have to make the mistakes first before you kind of learn what you need to do. And in some cases, that's almost too late, because if the kids are going for that journey with you, and your mistakes end up being kind of their mistakes as well in many ways. And I guess for grassroots coaches, it's just trying to almost be ahead of the curve. So if you can pick up your advice and guidance before you need it, then hopefully you can bring that into your practices before you make all the the mistakes that certainly I've made over the years. And I just wondered if you had any tips for grassroots coaches out there that were working with players, especially the younger ones. What advice or guidance might you give them with regards to how they might manage their practices or manage their teams or their parents?
Yeah, I think like all that matters really is that the children are enjoying what they're doing. They're all there for different reasons. Some of them probably don't even like football that much, but their mates playing, so they want to be there. So it's important that we know our players really well, and like we said before, sort of managing the difference, understanding what makes them tick, and sort of getting the most out of everyone so they're enjoying it, not getting the most out of everyone in a football sense, but in a social sense, particularly making sure that everyone's enjoying what they're doing. I started coaching my little lads team or helping out when he was an under-6, and I was useless. Like, I was so far out of my comfort zone, didn't have a clue what I was doing. I used to have a go at him because I was a professional footballer at the time. I'd have a go at him because I was talking to him like I spoke to on a Saturday afternoon as a professional, because I had no education. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. Fortunately, I sort of learnt about it. I learnt about myself, knowing what I'm doing is completely wrong, really. I think we can be a bit guilty. We can over-plan sessions so much. I used to do it all the time. I see coaches do it all the time, where we've got our clipboard there and we've got a certain time scale to everything. That's 10 minutes there, stop that, go on to this. And where you don't need to do that. Like, if the kids are enjoying it, let them carry on what they're doing. I think we sort of maybe guilty where we want to get out what we're saying for us more than the children, thinking it's going to help them learn, where at the end of the day, without being, I've coached at professional clubs where the kids ain't taking that much notice of me anyway. They're just there because they want to play football. That's what they want to do. So I think that's what, as much as possible, that's what we should let them do. I don't think there's any need to save it till the end, till we have the match at the end, because that's all they're waiting for. So why don't have a game at the start? Because that's what they want to do. Is we're doing it for them. We're not doing it for us. And I think that's where we can get caught up. And I've been caught up many a time with me sheet. God, these are the coaching points I want to get out. I need to get these out, where it might go off what we want to work on sometimes, but who cares? Because the children are enjoying playing football.
It's that over-coaching, isn't it? It's that wanting to help and give all the information out. But actually, you know what? Let them learn themselves a little bit. Create the environment, be positive, put a ball in there. You can manipulate things to work on stuff. But, yeah, the over-coaching, and just because you want to give the best to the kids, don't you? But actually, sometimes the best is actually saying less and just letting them explore themselves a little bit and find solutions to problems in their own time, in their own way.
Yeah, and it always comes from a good place, because you want to give them all this information. But I think back to when I was a child, and you just don't listen. They don't listen. And a lot of the time they're not listening, and they just want to run about. So let them run about. Don't be having cues on the pitch. As much as possible, get them charging about and burning off all that energy, because that's why they're playing football for.
Yeah. And what about then compared to academies then, Luke? I mean, how did you see that different, for the experience that you've been in the academy system and seen it, should they have a different approach to grassroots or not? Or how does it look, and what do you think they do well in academies, and maybe what could we do different in the academy football in this country?
To be honest, to be completely honest, I think the academies start too early. I think the kids go in too young, and I think they get too much football too early. And no disrespect to any clubs, they all have to do it because that's what the next club, and they're all so scared of losing out on the next big thing. So I think the academies grassroots for them youngest ages, I don't think they should be any different whatsoever. It should be, again, festering that love of football. That's what's going to keep the children involved in it. So it's got to be everything they do, they should be enjoyed doing. I think as they get older, academies, you are working with children that are more gifted at the time, at that age. They might not be in 5 year time, but at the time they're perceived as being better footballers. I think both my children play in academies, so this might sound sort of quite contradictory, is that when I worked in it, I just didn't see enough smiles really. It was where you speak about it has to be about the process. I think too often it's about the destination. They're there to become a professional footballer, and I think if that's your mindset, you can lose a little bit of enjoyment for the game, and it feels like something you've got to do to become that professional footballer. So for me, it's all about loving it. Like that's the be all and end all. If you want to be a professional footballer, you ain't going to stay in the game for long unless you love what you're doing, because it's not always a nice industry to be in, but you can get through it because I love it. I'm still the same person that was kicking the ball around at break time with my mates on the tennis court at school. That's what it needs to be like. It's always got to go back to that. So whatever level you're playing at, I think the enjoyment is, and that's why I'm so sort of passionate about what we're trying to grow at the Football Fun Factory, because it is purely about the enjoyment, where them little coaching points sort of go out the window, because the smile's more important than the tucking in when the wide man's on the other side of the pitch to make sure you're compact out of possession, that sort of thing. And it is, don't get me wrong, that is important if you want to go through the academy, but I don't remember that many coaching points as a footballer, but I remember how I was treated by my coaches as a person. So I think that is the most important thing for anyone. It's a person first and the footballer second, or the development of the young person second.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, come on, look, if you don't mind, we mentioned it a few times without actually going into detail. Could you tell us a bit more about the Football Fun Factory, where it started from, your involvement, and kind of what its, I guess, mission is?
Yeah, so the Football Fun Factory is an organisation that was put together by a couple of my ex-colleagues that I worked in at Cambridge United with within the academy. And when I finished playing football, I really struggled, like a lot of footballers do, like sort of that loss of a real identity. What do I do now? I've been known as a footballer since probably the age of 8 or 9, and now where do I fit in this world really? And I fell down I never saw myself as a football coach. I sort of just went through the qualifications because as a means to an end, because as a footballer, a lot of the time you think the only thing you can do now is try and stay in football to get a job really. So I went down that route, managed to get a job at Cambridge United, where I spoke about academies there. Don't get me wrong, there's some wonderful work going on there and coach some fantastic young players, but I knew it weren't, I'd get up every morning and it weren't for me really. I just thought, I don't really love what I'm doing. It's so far away from being a professional footballer. It's always going to be tough to find something close to that, but you want to get as close to it as possible. So they told me about the Football Fun Factory, and it just struck a chord with me in terms of making football fun. All it is enjoyment and a development tool to become a better person. So I came on board. It's I run my own sort of franchise of it now in the area where I live, which is where I grew up. It's where I went to school. It's where my kids went to school. So it's giving something back to my community really, that sort of gave me the love for football when I grew up. So it's just a real rewarding role. And now we're trying to grow it into a nationwide, our ambitions to be the leading coaching organisation in the world really. And I don't think there's that many people that do what we do, in terms of, it's not a development tool. We're not developing footballers, but we're trying to develop people, and we're trying to create this love of this wonderful game that we do all love so much. So we're just involved in trying to grow that, and in 5 years' time be Football Fun Factories all over the UK and all over the world. That's the big ambition, and that's what gives me a real buzz. Like, it is quite similar to to being that footballer from all those years ago, but potentially offering something more important than I offered as a footballer, to really help and engage children from all walks of life, really.
Well, I guess it's a win-win, because for the kids that get taken up in it, whatever happens, they're going to develop as human beings, right? In a good way. So that's done. You know, if their football keeps on, it goes where it goes, but that's a bonus to some extent. But you can't lose by being part of that process, right? You're going to develop skills that you wouldn't necessarily develop otherwise, or at least you're going to develop them quicker and maybe to a higher level by being part of that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's such a rewarding role. I mean, I was coaching 16s, 18s or whatever at Cambridge, and again, it was great, but I'd walk off the training field and think, what am I really giving that much? Are they taking that much from me to really help them? And then a couple of months later, I'm in the village hall near where I live with kids that are 2 to 4 years old. I've got them all completely out of my comfort zone. They're all sat around. I'm telling them what to do. I've got cones set up. I say, go on, then off you go. And they're not listening to a word I've said. They're throwing cones about, they're booting footballs. But at the same time, they've got massive smiles on their face, and they're going home after the session. They're saying to mummy or daddy, I can't wait for football next week. And that is, I'm not offering much as a football coach, but I'm helping develop that love of football that they might have for a lifetime. There's no more rewarding feeling than that. I think we all remember our first football coach. I certainly do, when I first started playing, and it's a real a rewarding position to be in.
Yeah, definitely.
To have that effect on people at such a young age.
I think chaos is very much underrated in the soccer coaching practices. I think the more chaotic you are in some ways, the better. The parents might not get it, but actually as a coach, I think football's chaotic, isn't it? Life's chaotic. So if you can manage in those situations, and it's not a bad skill set to have.
Yeah, and I think it's important that you mentioned the parents there. It's important that the parents are obviously, you as a coach, whatever, you're always worried that they're judging you, what they're thinking about me, but that should be the last thing really, because it is about the kids, and sometimes it is going to look messy. It's going to look an absolute nightmare sometimes, and it's not going to work, but that's what we have to do, because we're football coaching. We need to fix it and make sure the kids are enjoying what they're doing.
Yeah. So obviously lockdown might have impacted on your sessions. Are you back up and running yet, or is that still something you're looking at, or are they going on at the moment?
No, so our sessions are still suspended at the moment. So we're just waiting for clearance from the government. There is the opportunity to run the sessions with 5 kids social distancing, but I think what we're all about is bringing that community together. We want loads of kids running around, sort of having fun and enjoying it, rather than sort of just having it for a few players. So we're hoping for more guidance to come out soon, where we can get the sessions up and running again.
I bet you're missing it, aren't you?
Oh, without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt. It'd be great to get back out there, but at the same time, it has to be safe. Right. Safety is paramount. And
yeah, well, fingers crossed it won't be too long, Luke, and you'll be out there and you see these kids running around. What age group is it you've got then, or how broad is the age band?
So at the moment, the ages we've run sessions from children to 2 to 12 years old.
And is that one session a week kind of thing? They'll come along and play on one Saturday morning or Sunday or something, is it?
Yeah, so most coaches have sort of 3 venues. So we'll run 3 weekly sessions for different children in the different villages or areas where we live, where the kids live and the coaches live. And then there'll be a tot session for the 2 to 4 or 5 year olds on a Saturday morning.
It sounds like a great project, Luke. It sounds brilliant. And we're around grassroots football and academy football and stuff. And I think nearly every coach I meet has got best intentions, and every environment has the best intentions. But it can often feel quite adult, even for the younger age groups, and it can often feel quite serious. And even as parents, especially if your kid gets in that academy system, it's hard to kind of not feel the pressure, and then that gets put on the kid. So I think any space in which, hey, look, we can just say football can just be fun, and it can have that life skill thrown into it, must be a wonderful environment. And I'm sure it will be successful, and I'm looking forward to the domination in the next 5 years and seeing it all over the place. I like the branding already. It stands out, the blue and the yellow. But whatever, you can't argue with the principles and the philosophy. And, I'd happily have my kids involved in that environment. I'll be part of it, because it just sounds like combining football and life skills. It's a no-lose, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It is a great concept. And hopefully we'll have, like I say, we'll have the centres all over. And if anyone's interested in it, any like-minded people that feel like they want to be part of it, and we're always on the lookout for for great people, please feel free to get in touch with me.
All right, brilliant, Luke. We'll do contact details at the end, but I'm sure you'll get some back from this 100%. We do ask all our guests just this one question. If you were king for the day and you could change one thing about football in this country, we often focus it around youth coaching, but you can have a more open perspective if you want to. The fact you played it and, and the different coaching roles that you've had and stuff. But if you could change one thing in football in this country, what would it be?
Oh, that is a tough one.
Isn't
I think I'd say in terms of that elite side of it, that academy, I wouldn't have that start until under 14, I don't think. I'd have the kids just playing with their friends, playing in teams close to where they live. There's no travelling involved, and it's just it is seen as a fun thing up until then. And then the most gifted children go into that system if that's what they choose to do. Because I think the dropout rate is so huge in terms of the players that come through and actually make it at the top end of the game. I think it just take a lot of children away from that, and they're just enjoying having fun playing with their mates. So I remember that was when I loved playing football as an under 9, 10, 11 in them local grassroots teams. I think that's the one thing I'd change, I think.
Do you see it happening, Luke? Do you see the age going back the other way? I know you spent many years going younger and younger and younger, but I think in Germany, is it Bayern Munich or one of the teams over there, their academy now is going, I think, to under 9s. They pushed it back a couple of years. So maybe even under 11s, I can't remember. They've started pushing, they're not taking the under 7s anymore. They're pushing back a little bit. Do you think it would happen, not tomorrow, but could you see it shifting back the other way?
I can't see it happening in the near future. I think Bayern Munich can do that, because regardless of who the child is and they're at another club, as their side, they can come and just take them away. It'll obviously only work if everyone does it, because otherwise the ones that aren't would just take all the players, really. So I don't see it in the near future, but who knows? Who knows what could happen?
I kind of feel, as a grassroots dad, I kind of feel like part of it, and I understand this, has always been the fact academies couldn't necessarily trust the coaches, the weekend coaches, if you like. And I kind of get that, to give a quality session to the players, and therefore they feel like, I've got to step in and take it over, because we want to give them the right information, the right training, the right practices. And I feel like, as I developed as a coach and done the badges and worked through these things, I'm more proud of the sessions I put on for the players now. I'm more confident that, they do the ownership stuff. It's not coach-centred, it's player-centred now, and these things. And I wonder if part of that solution could be, invest more in us as grassroots coaches and get our level up to a higher level. And then the academies can relax a bit more, maybe support us and spend those maybe under 7s, under 8s, under 9s years working more with the communities, and then pick up the players maybe under 10s, under 11s when they're a little bit more older and you see a bit more about them. And then the parents and the players not have that pressure about getting signed or released, year on year. It feels like that might be a way of going about it, but it would need everyone to kind of commit to that to make it work.
Yeah, I think something like that is a fantastic idea. I think I like the idea of even like hubs. They spoke about it done in Germany years ago before they went and won the World Cup, where I think something that don't sit easy with me is the distance that a lot of these kids have to travel to go and play in the academies, in terms of 45 minutes, 50 minutes in a car 3 times a week. I just think it's a little too much for children of 9 and 10 years old to have to do that. So the idea of being close to a football centre and just playing within 5 minutes of your house, I think it just makes things so much more enjoyable, so much more fun when when you're taking that journeys out of the equation.
Yeah, you could be driving twice as far as you're actually playing, can't you? If it's an hour or so there, an hour or so back, you might be training less than you're actually commuting there and back from. So, yeah, I guess it's just making it more accessible on your doorstep with good quality coaching and just taking some of the pressure off getting signed early. Well, I'm up for that one. If you can push the back a little bit, that would work really well. Luke, thank you so much for your time. It's been a real pleasure having someone that's kind of done the journey and walked through it and lived it, and it's still a big smile on their face. Obviously has a passion for the game still and doing your bit for the game. It's great to talk to you and get your thoughts, Luke. What if people do want to reach out to you, either you personally or for the Fun Football Factory as well? What's the best way for them to make contact?
Yeah, so we're on Football Fun Factory on all the social media outlets. I don't know the handles, I'm useless at all that, but to drop, My email address is luke@thefootballfunfactory.co.uk. So any questions, any more information, please feel free to drop me a line and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
And Luke, beyond the Football Fun Factory's world domination over the next 5 years, what's your plan?
That's the plan at the moment, really. I feel so much more better in myself stepping away from professional football completely, really. I've got a new lease of life, really. This has given me a new vision, something to set my mind to. So I've never really had any plans of becoming a first team manager or anything like that. So that was never in the back of my mind. And I've never really, like I mentioned earlier, I never really saw myself as a coach into like when I was going through my career and sort of fell into it. So just what's most important to everyone, just being happy really and just enjoying my life. That's what's on the agenda for me.
I reckon we'll talk to you in 5 years' time. You'll be managing Cambridge United, I reckon.
Yeah.
Luke, thank you so much for your time. We're really, really grateful. Best of luck with everything. I'll be watching the work you're doing with the Football Fun Factory and seeing that progress. I know it's going to be a success, but thank you so much for your time, mate. It's been a privilege having you on the show. Thank you so much.
No worries, Scott. Enjoyed speaking to you.